What is up, dudes and lady dudes? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys, for another Yu-Gi-Oh video. This time we're looking at more news, but this time we're going back to create a card project, okay? We finished phase one. Congratulations to anybody who loves inzektors. They are the winner. They are going to be getting their own card, and that's extremely hype. Now, the question becomes, what's the next step? Well, the next step is this. We have a new vote this time for phase two, now that we have the archetype decided that we're going to be working on, deciding what kind of card the actual card is going to be. So there's actually a vote up, and I believe the vote goes a couple of different ways. There's like 4 avenues you can go. So this vote is now to determine whether we're going to have a main deck monster, an extra deck monster, a spell, or a trap card to be the new brand new card for inzektors. So I believe when you go in, it'll ask you if you want monster or non-monster. You click one of those and it'll take it to either extra deck or main deck monster, or spell or trap. Which is pretty cool. I like that Konami's getting a little bit more in depth here. Half of me didn't know what they were gonna do, so I wasn't gonna be surprised if inzektors won and the immediate next phase was just gonna be like, all right, here's 3 cards. Pick the one that you like the most. And they already have them written up. The effects are all out and everything, and we got to pick them. Now, not to say that they couldn't already make one there that was worth picking, but I like that they give the player base a little bit more free range to kind of do what they want to do for this, and actually vote a little more in depth, type of card. And then after this, I'm assuming it's going to be the kind of effect it might have, and then we'll go from there. So here's what I'm thinking. Right, getting more in depth on what I think is the best thing to do. Listen, even if you're not an inzektor enjoying person, whatever, if you don't like inzektors, that's up to you, that's fine. But they did win, and if they were gonna win, even if an archetype I didn't like one, if photons won, I'm not a big photon fan, and they got second place, if they had won, I still would want Konami to make a really strong photon card to hopefully allow a deck that has never really competed on a competitive level, on a high competitive level like that, to maybe be able to do so. I still would want that for the deck, and I want that here. So when we get down to looking at inzektors and how they work, and what kind of card, if they were only getting one card, would give them the most help, you got to get thinking on it, right? So obviously, if you don't know what inzektors do, they like to use the monsters in the main deck to equip other monsters to themselves, and then gain additional effects by detaching them, and do stuff like that. So you equip Hornet with stuff to then get pops with Hornet. You're trying to summon Dragonfly out of the deck, and then kind of loop Dragonfly, which we now have back off the ban list, which is very, very key for the deck. And yeah, so definitely when you look at it, there's a couple of things I think the archetype is missing. Now I'm just kind of touching on the surface here. I'm kind of also trying to kind of spark some discussion in the comments down below, because I want to hear your guys' thoughts on here. If you think inzektors get one card, what kind of card do you think it should be? Here's what I think they miss. Right now, when inzektors were the top of the meta, disruption was not really as much of a thing. It wasn't about setup disruption on your turn 1. It was all about grind game, and that's why they were so good, because they could use Hornet 3 times in a turn, go pop, 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 your board's gone, and now I have the resource game on lockdown. Whereas nowadays, if you don't set up a disruption, it doesn't matter how many times you could potentially pop cards, you're not going to get that far on your next turn. So I think the deck needs some kind of way to do some stuff like that. Or just ways to I don't know. There are generic disruptions the deck can set up. It can make some Exceed plays. It can definitely set up a lot of link fodder on the field. So just making Appaloosa type stuff, IP Masquerena type stuff, that's still available as well, just for generic disruptions. But I think overall the deck also struggles with one interruption, and a lot of times the deck is very linear in the sense that one interruption and you're kind of dead in the water. So hand traps are very tough, even when you do get to go first and have a potential play. One hand trap stops you. And you could go on YouTube and look up inzektor combos, because there are some insane inzektor combos on YouTube. I think there might have been FTKs, but I know for a fact there are combos that take 5 to 10 minutes and go crazy. Now, I don't think that's necessarily the best way to play the deck, but it's possible. So it's one of those decks that if it goes off, it can kind of really go. But hand traps are such a big part of our format, and like I said, this deck is so linear, a lot of times one hand trap will stop it, no matter what the hand trap is. So when you go and look at the monsters, I think the monsters are actually pretty good. You've got Dragonfly, Hornet, Centipede's also very good. The Exceeds are okay. I don't think they're amazing, but they're okay. And Pycofelina is actually not too bad as well. Definitely could be a bigger part of the strategy with a new card, definitely. And then when you look at the spells and traps, you're just like, oh boy, these are not good. You've got like essentially a lot of equip spells, and you've got a handful of traps that aren't actually really like disruption effects. They're kind of like just, they're weird engine effects. Like, I think this card is like it's like a trap that lets you like either equip an inzektor or unequip an inzektor, which is like, it's fine, but it's not insane. And it's probably just too slow for the current metagame. So you have stuff like that. You have like a bunch of like weird like utility traps, but they're not that good, and I don't see them seeing any actual play like past this card. So I don't think that's the way to go. And I think when you look at it, you're like, this deck needs a spell, man. And that's where I think I land. And it needs some kind of engine spell that like works side by side with what the cards already do, in the sense that like it doesn't take your play, it like can add on to your play, in the sense that like something like I don't know, even if it's just a card that just says like special summon an inzektor monster from the deck, because you could normal summon something, get disrupted there, and then just go boom, special summon from the deck. Maybe like on a Hero Lives card where it just says like if you control no monster, you could start with that base the negate, and then you follow up with normal summon Dragonfly, pop off from there. That would totally work. So I think something like that is exactly what the deck is really looking for. Going second allows you to play through more disruption and get to Hornet, start popping cards going second. That's actually decent. As well as going first, if the deck wants to do some kind of going first combo control strategy, your opponent could stop your normal summon, hand trap whatever your normal summon play is, and then you fire off this whatever, like a Hero Lives type card, whatever it is, just like a way to extend. I don't think a Monster Reborn effect is going to be good enough, honestly. I think it needs to be something like summon from the deck, just special summon an inzektor from the deck, to really allow this deck to do what it wants to do. Maybe have a bonus effect, whether it's engrave or whatever. I don't know on that. That's another thing to consider. But I think the biggest weakness of this deck is, one, just if it's normal summon gets disrupted, it's really in a lot of trouble, as well as the fact that the spells and traps are just god awful. They're just like all awful, all of them. They're just, it's no good. I'm sorry. They're just like none of them. Excalibur used to be okay, and now Excalibur is just like not good enough. I'm sorry. It's just not. So I think being able to utilize like generic monsters makes it like fine, because the deck can spam. So like you can still get to generic like good bossish monsters. That would have been my other thing that I would ask for, but it'd have to be something good, like something on the level of like Immortal Phoenix Gearfried, of like, okay, pretty good going second as an extender as well as it is a disruption. I'd want something like that, but I don't know if that would be as good as a spell. I think if the deck was getting 2 cards, that would be the 2 cards I would be looking for. But I think if it's just 1 card, I'd really like to see a power spell that just like helps the engine go. Like just puts the engine in a place where it plays through 1 disruption much easier. Not even an insane card. Like I get it, somebody from the deck is pretty strong, but it really only helps you play through 1 disruption. And I think that could put inzektors a little bit on the map again, and we would see where it goes from there. We can always reban cards. I mean, if you could do it once, you could do it again. But yeah, I think that's where I land. Like I said, this was all just to kind of spark discussion in the comments down below. I didn't even really like think too hard about what I wanted, but I think a spell is the right way to go here. So I'm going to vote for a spell. I'll leave the rest up to you guys. Obviously, throw down in the comments down below what kind of card you would like to see here, not just the type of card, but also what kind of effect you're thinking for that type of card. And definitely throw that down below. I'm very curious to see what you guys think on that. And that's going to do it for me here. I just thought this was a really cool thing. Inzektors 1, which was, I think, my 3rd choice out of 3. I think I had like Weather Painters first, then Frogs, and then Inzektors. But I'm not happy. I'm not upset, right? 16 archetypes. I got my 3rd place picked. I'll take it, right? So yeah, like I said, leave those comments in the section down below. I will see you in the next video. Peace.